to hear the story of that. So Rob, over to you.
Thank you. Just waiting. Look, it's appropriate that I start with a thank you. These type of projects and outcomes are only possible when people share their learnings and experiences. So I thank all the people that have shared with us in the past, and hopefully you'll get some benefit from this presentation on our experience. So it's probably best to start with the challenge. We were trying to create a workplace for the future. It was to transform the way we work for all of our organisation, a contribution to culture and also our competitive advantage. It's in the MLC Centre, which is a building constructed in the 70s. We're on levels 50 to 52, and this project was to be cost neutral for the business over the term of the lease. Rosemary touched on engagement and collaboration. We started this project with a conversation, and it was a conversation with our business that would cover the way we work today as individuals, the way we work as teams, the impact that that has on our environment, and what we could do more efficiently and more effectively. Importantly, it's a conversation that continues today as technology changes, and that daily juggle of our work commitment and our life commitments just gets more complex. You know, like most projects, you need to have longevity. This was only a small project in scale, but there was a 2-year lead-in time, and we're there for at least 10, maybe 15 years. So, you know, you're really designing for the future. And one thing we know is you're planning for the future with what you know today, and we certainly know that the future will be very different. And they are real photos of our business in 2009 and how quickly it changed to implementation in 2011. So just 2 years almost, how we work differently. That was not a stage photograph, that is how we worked. So what's important is that people are encouraged to imagine. It's not about knowledge, it's about imagination. And so often it is your own people that will have the answers. We don't always need to bring in the experts. Our own people are the experts. Rosemary touched on governance, and one of the things that, sorry, let's go back one. We wanted to do from the outset was quite a different structure. We took the approach that if we did everything the traditional way, we would end up with a traditional outcome. Our client was the greater GPT, so that's all of the people, clients, the visitors, and the community within which we operate were defined as our clients, which were at the centre of what we did. And we had what we called a virtual project team. So they were the people that were responsible for the daily delivery of the project, and they were a cross-section of people based in the MLC Centre, because not all of our staff are in the MLC Centre, and across basically all of our shopping centres, which are across Australia. And importantly, all of our decisions were endorsed by the PCG, which consisted of the executive of the group. They weren't there to solve the problems, they were to take on board the suggestions that we made and basically carve the way forward through the business. That approach ended up with a whole lot of great ideas, a whole sort of disparity of ideas, and it was pretty clear that we needed to partner with like-minded imaginators to collectively deliver the future that we saw. Woods Bagot were our architects and also played a really important role in creating an integrated business model for us. And Arups provided our multidisciplinary engineering, and we saw how important workplace environments in terms of indoor air quality and lighting actually are. And Peace of Mind were our audio and technology integrator, making complex things really simple. And you saw in Rosemary's slide the hand-drawn elements of place. There are 3 components: place, or what we call the 3 components: place, people, and technology. And I'll just go through each of our 3 elements. In terms of those ideas, we were always testing them against something. Would those ideas improve our culture? Would they improve our values? And would they help us increase our competitive advantage? GPT is the largest diversified trust. We have 18 teams in GPT, but prior to this, we basically had 18 silos. As I said, Woods Bagot helped us look at the floor plate and how that floor plate could help us achieve an integrated business model. And out of all of that, we came up with what we called the big ideas. And these were just tangible, common language things that the whole of the business could understand, so they could embrace it and help us move forward. And they were free the information in our people. Again, this is a real photo of how we worked. We were a paper-intensive business. We deal with contracts, leases, drawings, registrations of title. We are heavily reliant on paper. I'm hiding up the back somewhere, trying to find a lease, I guess. We wanted to provide people with diversity of space. Prior to this project, people had a desk to perform their work at or a meeting room, and essentially no spaces in between. We wanted to connect our business, and we've touched on now, staircase is common practice, and we had a really good example of a staircase that didn't work. In our old fit out, it connected the 3 floors, it was in the wrong location, there was no business activity around that, and we actually put in a camera to see how often it was used throughout the day, and essentially it wasn't used. We now have 2 of those what we call vertical connectors that play a really important role in facilitating connection within the business. Through the research work that we did with Woods Bagot's education team, the spaces in between become really important in a learning environment. That's where a lot of the consolidation of thoughts and thinkings that happens in formal spaces actually occur. So we have a lot of in-between spaces in our fit-out, or our work environment. We wanted to create organic neighbourhoods, and one of the things you first do when you start these projects is you pull out the blocking and stacking diagram, you try and work out all the bubbles, and everyone wants to be near the CEO because they're important, and that's just not possible. And what we've come up with are organic neighbourhoods that really blur the lines of where people sit. So as you can imagine, when we were trying to tell people where they would be on day one, there wasn't actually a spot for them. It was a case of find that space that you needed. And this diagram also shows that the communal spaces or the community areas, they're not owned by individuals. There was no colours allocated to those at all. We also wanted to create a healthy place for our people. We've seen the benefit in terms of improvement in productivity and creating a healthy place. Technology played a huge part, and it really is about making complex things simple. If people can't easily walk into the room or a space and use the technology, it will fail. And what starts to happen is the lowest performer almost sets the benchmark in the business because they're dragging you down almost to their level. So we invested heavily in all types of communication, collaboration, and rather than talk to each of the initiatives, you'll see what we did in the fit out. And hopefully you've picked up what's wrong with this picture. There's a fax machine in it. We did away with fax machines years ago, and I laughed when I saw that picture, so I put it in there. So what did we achieve? Well, we've created a club for all of GPT's 420 employees. There are 320 people that permanently call this place home, but we only have 270 traditional desks. And I'm deliberately not going to use the term activity-based working because this space means something quite different to us, and we deliberately haven't tried to brand it because people do use it in different ways. Here's a typical floor plate that shows the diversity of the space and also the density, and I'll touch on that a little bit further. Basically, your laptop, and that's why I needed to plug mine in today, becomes your telephone, your notebook, your diary, a whole lot of range of things that is synchronised with lots of different facilities and technology that we have in the business. In terms of that club, it's available 24/7. We have a town centre, and these are common areas in work environments with fridges, microwaves, you name it, whatever you need, and it's deliberately placed on the northern elevation where you get the best daylight. We are a property trust. We're about creating space and people occupying space. Interestingly enough, this solution has allowed us to reduce our accommodation footprint by 1/3. We used to be over 5 floors, and we're now down to 3. Now that may seem like an odd thing to do when your business is in space, creating space, but our view is this is where the future is. Some of the things we did, we actually made our desks smaller, we made them narrower, and we also reduced the space between people's desks, so people got a lot closer together. We also went from endless paper storage, put it wherever you want, it's on the floor, you know, we're paying $800 a square metre for that space, no worries, to 1 metre per person, and to be honest, I actually don't know where my 1 metre is anymore because I don't use it, and that's really the common practice in the business now. We're now down to 11.5 square metres per person based on the total NLA. So if you took the meeting rooms out and the communal spaces, we're at a lot tighter density. And interestingly enough, we've only been in occupation for about 9 months and we did our own yardstick survey. Our survey tells us that despite we making all those individual spaces smaller, our people are happier, and that's because we put back into the community spaces on our floors. It was about creating community and ownership. I mentioned that we went down from 18 teams to one big club, and it showed that people aren't always territorial. When we were embarking on this project, people used to say, well, where do I put the photo of the cat, the dog, our holiday? And you know, we don't have spaces for those because people choose their space every day. And you can see there's only one pedestal that serves, in that case, a bank of 4. There were all these sort of perceived issues around moving to this mobility and not having individual spaces, but I can assure you they're not issues in our workplace. And one of the other ones was, oh, people will come in early to get the best views by the window. It doesn't happen. There's enough great spaces in the whole space for people to choose. In terms of trying to create a connection with our community, all of the public areas and our major activity nodes are on the northern elevation, looking over Martin Place, which is sort of one of the busiest public areas in Sydney. I talked about territory. We've got lockers, everyone gets a locker, and for the first week when we moved in, we had an artist, and the idea was that people could personalise the front of the locker to tell them a little bit about themselves. Interestingly enough, only 80% of the business chose to put some artwork on the locker, and that was because people basically were proud of the space that they had created and wanted to project a unified image. It's a space that expands and contracts every day. Prior to this project, we were full, and almost every day someone was asking me to reshuffle some workstation, move some storage, new data points, and it drove me nuts. Now this is a space that expands and contracts every day. We have new people coming, we have people leaving, we have partners coming into the organisation. We make no changes, and we spend zero money on churn costs. It's a learning environment. You know, one of the things that we didn't realise we would pick up on is the number of relationships that get established because you're constantly sitting next to different people, and you're also learning off the people next to you. I mean, technology, every day I go into the office and I pick up something new off the person next to me or behind me that makes my life easier. If I sat next to the same person every day, it wouldn't happen. The other thing that everyone said, oh, you know, noise is going to be a problem because you've got people moving around and people shouting because you don't know where the other person is. Not an issue. The noise level has actually found its own happy medium. It's more like a library, and we have Microsoft Communicator where you can locate people. You don't need to physically get up and find where they are. Your little control panel tells you that. There was this is our incubator, which we call this the incubator, because we're essentially a virtual organisation now. We don't all need to be in the same spot to collaborate and create outcomes. This is a room that has video conferencing, audio conferencing, smart boards, whiteboards. It's all there, and it's all controlled by one simple panel that does the lighting and the air conditioning. And there's one of those spaces in between that I talked about. We call them Happy Days booths that people can just break out of the meetings, sit in, write some notes and keep going. We put in lockers, showers and bike racks, and all of these have been subscribe. They're basically just common practice. I ride my bike to work 3 days a week now. I'm much happier for it. And people are saying, you know, we should actually take some of the showers out and put more lockers in because we've got so many people either walking, running or riding to work. We bring in more fresh air. Someone said it looks like a jail. That's the return air grill because we're bringing in an additional 25% fresh air compared to a standard building. You can see the plants, 500, fresh fruit for everybody. It's a place that's ready for business. You know, it was really interesting to see people come back from holidays and you spend that first week, you know, shuffling the photos, putting new holiday snapshots up and really not doing a lot. This place is ready to go on day one because we don't have any of that. And it really does mean that people are more productive. We file electronically, so it basically means every document has a home and everything is part of a process. And you might say, well, that'll stifle creativity. It doesn't. Frees people up to think and actually be creative. It's been great for business. That's our CFO. When he's happy, I'm happy. We've had over 100 businesses come through. We've had lots of great press, and we've had fantastic speaking opportunities like this. The results, a bit hard to read, so I'll talk to it. We home for 320 people, 272, we call them work surfaces, but we average a daily occupancy of 210 people, and it just shows you, maternity leave, annual leave count for about 10%, but the rest of the time people are with our customers and are out of the office. Paper storage has gone from almost a kilometre down to 200 metres, and usage, because we have swiped print or follow me printing, has been reduced by 70%. Operational savings, the numbers are there, lighting down by 70, overall energy 50%. And the big one, are our people happy and do they want to work this way? And absolutely, 90% satisfaction. And yes, it is hard to measure productivity. Believe me, you know whether your people are more productive or not. We did ask our people. We said, look, do you feel as though you're more productive? They said, yes, we do. And we said, if you were to rate that, on a sliding scale, where would you be? On average, our business said 15% more productive. So that's consistent with what the statisticians will tell you. How do we get there? This was not easy, and you've got to go back to think, well, this is how we worked. We were a paper-based business. Has our business changed? No, we still lease space and build buildings. To get there, we had a very intensive change management program that was managed internally, and we created essentially a passport system. And there were 11 initiatives, and you had to get a stamp in each of those initiatives before you were ready to move into the new work environment. This did create a level of competition, which was good, but it also let people know how much they had to learn. It's kind of like taking someone out of a Holden into a Ferrari. They'd crash on the first corner. They really don't know how to handle these machines. These things go really fast. And these passports became something that people were really proud of, and they got pinned up on the boards on day one. You got your passport photo taken, and that got stamped on the locker so you knew which locker was yours. We spent roughly 2,300 hours on training. It's about a day per person. It was over 6 months, but it meant by 9 o'clock on the first day, it was business as usual, and we'd gone from one extreme to the other. There's our happy little Vegemites on day one, and it was a great success for GPT. I will try and play a video because I've got 2 minutes in my time allocation, and we'll see if it works. We'll see. It did in rehearsals. Maybe I can take a question while I multitask.
Got a challenge ahead of us to do something really different, an opportunity for a team of people to design and help build a location that people then visited from all around the world.
At the very start of the process, we gave people the opportunity to join what became the Creative Council that worked very closely with the project team and with the consultants to question the way in which we're working, every element of it. The systems, the processes, how collaborative we were, the technology we use, all of those sorts of things. So today what we see here now is the outworking of that, and we think gives us a wonderful platform for working together into the future.
The design intent was really to create a dramatic and really accessible front of house space. We really went back to the base of this building, which is a Harry Seidler building, and took some of his really sinuous and sweeping forms and tried to create these dramatic staircases that wind around the pods. The way that we put the front of house space together was really to pull you back and make sure that you look at the view in a different way and perfectly frame it to make a really beautiful panorama of the city view. Key to this was actually pulling out the existing facade and replacing the glass with clearer glass, and then just framing it really like a postcard.
One of our aspirations was to recycle or reuse all of the existing equipment in our fit-out. And in some cases, that existing furniture was recycled and came back in a different form, just like these joinery units here. Our people told us they wanted a more vibrant, fresher place to work, so we bring additional air into our tenancy from outside through louvers like this right into our work environment.
Environment's been a fantastic opportunity to improve collaboration across the business. So we've got people coming up to us saying they've met people they've never met before, they're working with different people across the business, and we're getting a lot more flow between the different business units. And I think that's going to lead to better results and certainly better relationships for everyone at GPT.
I've loved to see how my team have used all the collaborative spaces. Nearly every day you see them sitting around there working through a spreadsheet. It's just fantastic.
We're seeing a lot more movement into other areas and actually finding out different things in the business that we generally just wouldn't find out sitting in our own areas.
The ability to actually speak to the centres and see the centres and actually have that two-way dialogue where it's not just on the phone and you can't really gauge what people are thinking. I'm finding it fantastic just all around, being able to talk to Casuarina, Melbourne, Charlestown. It's great.
We're in an environment where we can actually showcase what we do.
GPT's workplace supports a new way of working and promotes the group's leadership in the sustainable design of built environments. Employees have the access to the latest technologies, processes, space, and the freedom to deliver best performance and ongoing learning. These in turn will foster